The wind that night was sharp, the kind that bit into skin and found its way through every tear and gap in worn-out clothes. Maya tucked her thin coat tighter around herself and adjusted the frayed scarf around Lily's little neck. The city was decorated for the winter holidays, glittering lights in store windows, laughter spilling from cafes, but for those like Maya, the cold season only meant longer nights and colder mornings. "Mommy," Lily whispered, her small hand clinging to Maya's like a lifeline. Her voice was soft, tired. "My toes are cold." "I know, baby," Maya whispered back, forcing a gentle tone even as her heart clenched. "We'll get warm soon, I promise." She guided her daughter down the dim street, passing by a row of closed shops. Their reflections in the darkened windows were faint, her messy hair tucked beneath a hood, Lily's tiny figure wrapped in an oversized coat that had belonged to someone else once. Maya's shoes were soaked from the slush, her toes were numb. She'd spent the last of her coins on a bus fare earlier that day, hoping to reach the shelter, but it had been full. Again. Then she smelled it, warm, comforting, a faint, rich scent drifting through the icy air like a memory she couldn't quite hold on to. Fresh bread. Soup. It led her to a corner building where a modest sign hung above the entrance. Greater than, Hope Kitchen, free meals served daily. A line had formed outside, men in tattered coats, women clutching their children, elderly faces etched with exhaustion. Maya hesitated at the edge of the sidewalk. Her pride held her back like invisible chains. A few years ago, she'd been the one passing soup to others at church drives. Now she was here, empty-handed, hollow-stomached, hoping someone would show her the same kindness. Lily squeezed her fingers, her eyes wide and innocent. "Can we go inside, Mommy?" Maya's throat tightened. She knelt to Lily's level, brushing the wind-tangled strands of her daughter's hair from her forehead. "Yes, sweetheart," she whispered. "We can." They joined the line. Snowflakes clung to Lily's eyelashes, sparkling like tiny crystals. Maya watched the people ahead. Some spoke quietly to each other, others stared at their feet in silence. When the doors opened, a wave of warmth and light spilled out. The scent of soup grew stronger, wrapping around her like a hug she didn't know she needed. Inside, the soup kitchen buzzed with soft chatter and kindness. Volunteers in matching aprons moved behind long tables, ladling hot soup into bowls and placing bread rolls on trays. A worn piano in the corner played softly, an old man with shaky hands trying to bring a little music into the room. Children's laughter mixed with the clinking of spoons against ceramic bowls. Maya guided Lily to the serving line. She tried to keep her head down, to disappear into the crowd. She hated being seen like this, tired, frayed, worn down to nothing but a mother trying to keep her child alive. Then, just as they reached the front of the line, she heard it. A voice, warm, steady, familiar. "Here you go. Be careful, it's hot." Her hands froze midair, her breath caught in her chest. Slowly, almost against her will, she lifted her eyes. And her world tilted. Behind the counter, wearing a gray sweater with sleeves pushed up to his elbows, stood Ethan Carter. His hair was a little longer now, swept back in a way that made him look effortlessly put together. A hint of stubble lined his strong jaw. But it was the eyes, those same hazel eyes that had once made her feel seen, safe, that made her knees weak. 10 years had passed since she'd last looked into them, and yet it felt like no time at all. "Maya," he said softly, disbelief threading through his voice. She blinked, as if saying his name might make him vanish like a mirage. Ethan." His lips parted, a flicker of surprise turning into something gentler, almost a smile. "I can't believe it's you." Maya's heart pounded in her chest. She wasn't ready for this. Not here, not like this. She wasn't the girl he used to know, bright, full of dreams. She was a woman standing in a soup kitchen line with a child, holding out her hands for charity. What would he think? Lily tugged on her coat. "Mommy, it's our turn." Maya snapped out of her trance. She took the bowl of steaming soup from Ethan's hands. Her fingers brushed his for the briefest second, and it felt like a jolt of electricity ran up her arm. She swallowed hard and forced out a single word. "Thanks." Then she lowered her gaze and moved away quickly, as though distance could shield her from the weight of his memory. She found a table in the corner where the light was softer and pulled Lily into the seat across from her. Ethan stood frozen behind the counter, ladle in hand, his heart thudding. He'd wondered about Maya so many times, what happened after she left their small town, why she'd never come back, if she'd found happiness. He'd built his life, his business, his mission, but a part of him had always been tethered to that summer night when they'd danced barefoot under the stars and promised they'd find each other again someday. And here she was, but not how he imagined. Maya stirred her soup but didn't drink it. She watched Lily instead, how her daughter's little hands cupped the bowl like it was treasure, how her eyes lit up with each warm spoonful. It was both beautiful and heartbreaking. She should be giving Lily more than soup from a shelter. She should be able to buy her a warm meal at a diner, wrap her in a proper coat, tuck her into a real bed. She blinked hard, willing away the tears that threatened to spill. "Hey," a voice said softly. She looked up. Ethan stood a few feet away, a towel slung over his shoulder, his expression unsure but kind. She straightened instinctively, pulling her coat around herself like armor. "Hi," she managed. "It's really you," he said, almost like he still couldn't believe it. She forced a small smile. "Yeah, it's me." There was a pause. A decade of unspoken words hung between them. She could see questions in his eyes, questions she wasn't ready to answer. How had she ended up here? Why was she alone? Who was the little girl? Ethan crouched slightly to look at Lily. "And who's this?" Lily blinked up at him, shy but curious. "I'm Lily," he smiled. "That's a pretty name." Maya's heart twisted. She didn't want his kindness to soften her. She didn't want to hope. Because hope hurt. It reminded her of everything she'd lost. "She's my daughter," Maya said quietly. Ethan nodded, his eyes softening even more. "She's beautiful." Maya looked down, her voice barely a whisper. "Yeah, she is." He didn't press her for details. He didn't ask why she was here, where her family was, what had gone wrong. Instead, he said something simple, something that wrapped around her like a gentle blanket. "If you ever need anything, Maya, this place is always here." She gave him a tight, polite smile. "Thank you." As he walked back to the counter, her chest ached in a way she couldn't name. She had walked through that door expecting nothing but a bowl of soup and warmth for one night. Instead, she had found a ghost from her past, alive and standing in front of her. A boy she had once loved, now a man she barely knew. Maya didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But as Lily laughed softly between spoonfuls of soup, a single thought whispered in her heart. The next evening, the snow fell in thick, quiet flakes, blanketing the streets in white. The wind was gentler than the night before, but the cold still pressed against every inch of skin. Maya pulled Lily's small hand into hers as they made their way down the same cracked sidewalk toward the soup kitchen. Last night's encounter with Ethan had replayed in her mind 1,000 times. His face, his voice, the way he'd looked at her, not with judgment, but with a softness that had felt dangerously close to hope. She had spent most of the night lying awake on the shelter cot, staring at the ceiling, feeling both embarrassed and oddly comforted. She didn't want to feel that way. She wasn't that girl anymore. She had learned long ago that dreams had a price. Lily skipped a little ahead of her now, tiny boots crunching in the snow. "Mommy, do you think the nice man will be there again?" Maya hesitated. "Maybe," she said softly, tightening her scarf. She shouldn't want to see him. But a small, stubborn part of her heart did. When they reached the Hope kitchen, warm light spilled out of the windows again, along with the comforting scent of bread and soup. Volunteers bustled inside, their laughter faint but warm against the cold night. The same familiar figure was there behind the counter, Ethan, sleeves rolled up, hair a little messy, but with that calm, steady presence she remembered. As if sensing her, he lifted his head. Their eyes met across the crowded room. He smiled. Maya's heart stuttered. She guided Lily into the line, trying to act like just another face among many. But when they reached the front, Ethan leaned forward, holding out a steaming bowl. "Back again," he said, his tone light, but his eyes holding something far deeper. Maya managed a nod, avoiding his gaze for too long. "Yeah, thank you." Before she could turn away, Ethan added gently, "Would you stay for a few minutes after dinner? I want to show you something." She frowned, unsure. Why? His lips curved slightly. Because after 10 years, hi, isn't enough. Maya's chest tightened. She didn't want to hope for more than warmth and food. But something in his eyes made her nod almost without thinking. Okay. They sat in the corner again. Lily devoured her soup happily, dipping the bread into it like it was the best thing she'd ever tasted. Maya watched her daughter, and in that moment, everything else faded. Lily was her world. Every night she fought for food, for shelter, for a tomorrow that wasn't guaranteed. But for the first time in a long while, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in months: safety. When the rush of people slowed down and most of the volunteers began cleaning up, Ethan walked over. "Come with me," he asked gently. She hesitated, looking down at Lily. "She can come too," he added quickly, his smile soft. Maya nodded slowly. She rose from the table and followed him through a side door that led to a quieter hallway. The sound of the bustling soup kitchen faded behind them. He stopped at a small, warmly lit office. The space was simple: a few chairs, some paperwork, a bookshelf, and a small electric fireplace that gave off a soft glow. Lily's eyes widened. "It's warm in here," she whispered excitedly, running her tiny hands toward the heat. Ethan chuckled softly at her reaction, then turned to Maya. His expression shifted, still kind, but more serious now. "Maya," he began, "there's something I didn't tell you last night." She stiffened slightly, every defense rising inside her. She hated surprises. She'd had too many in life, and none of them good. "This place," he gestured around, "Hope Kitchen, it's mine. I started it 3 years ago. I funded it. I built it from the ground up." The words hung in the air like snowflakes, delicate but heavy. She blinked, trying to process. "Yours?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, I own a construction company now. It grew faster than I expected. I decided to use part of the profits to build something that mattered. My mom used to bring me to soup kitchens when we didn't have much. I promised myself that if I ever made it, I'd give people the same kindness we were shown." Maya felt like the floor had tilted beneath her. She had eaten at his table last night without knowing. She'd walked in like a shadow, and he'd been the light she hadn't even seen. Her hands tightened around Lily's shoulders. I didn't know," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to feel small. I know how it feels to be on this side of the counter. I've been there." She shook her head slowly, overwhelmed. "Ethan, you don't understand. I never wanted you to see me like this." "Like what?" he asked gently. "Like someone who needs help," she whispered, her voice breaking despite herself. Ethan's brow softened. He stepped closer but not too close, close enough for his voice to feel like a shelter. "Maya, you're not weak because you're struggling. You're strong because you're still standing. You're still fighting for her." He glanced down at Lily, who was now curiously examining the fireplace. "That's strength." She turned away, blinking back tears. No one had said anything like that to her in years. Not since before everything had gone wrong. She remembered being 19 and full of plans. She remembered Ethan telling her she could conquer anything. Then life had blindsided her, losing her job, the breakup that left her alone, the eviction, the endless nights of trying to survive. "You don't have to do this alone," he said softly. Maya wrapped her arms around herself, as if trying to hold in all the pieces that wanted to spill out. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Ethan replied steadily, "I can help. I can offer you and Lily a place to stay for a while, somewhere warm and safe. And if you want, there's a job opening here. Paid, not charity. Real work. You're smart, Maya. You were always smart. We could use someone like you on the admin side." Maya stared at him, stunned. Her instinct was to say no, to protect what little pride she had left. But she looked at Lily, at her tiny boots and threadbare coat, at her tired but hopeful eyes. This wasn't about her anymore. It hadn't been for years. "Why?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Why would you do this for me?" Ethan looked at her then, not with pity, but with the same quiet certainty he'd had when they were teenagers. "Because once, when I had nothing, you believed in me. You gave me hope. And because," his voice softened even more, "I never stopped caring about you, Maya." Her breath caught in her throat. Lily ran over and tugged on Maya's sleeve. "Mommy, can we stay here? It's warm." Maya looked down at her daughter, then back at Ethan. Tears filled her eyes, not the bitter kind, but the kind that came when a heart that had been locked away too long was finally cracked open. Ethan stepped a little closer, his voice steady. "You don't owe me anything. This isn't a handout, it's a hand up, and I'll be here, for you and for her, if you'll let me." Maya covered her mouth as a sob escaped. For months, she had been surviving one day at a time, never daring to hope. And now, here he was, her first love, standing before her, offering not just food or shelter, but something far rarer. A second chance. She nodded slowly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Okay," she whispered. Ethan's smile grew, not wide, but warm, steady, real. Lily laughed softly, wrapping her tiny arms around her mom's leg. And in that quiet little office, surrounded by warmth and kindness, Maya felt the ice around her heart begin to melt. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel like a storm she had to outrun. It felt like sunrise.